My fellow Australians, or words to that effect. Welcome once again to what I presume will become my annual Australia Day address. Last year I just burned a flag and explained why I was burning a flag, which really incited the rednecks, and I had a ball. This year, let's do something just a tad more serious. Now, I came across an article written on Hoopla during the week by the radio and television personality and comedian Corinne Grant. I thought it summed us up extremely well in the current paradigm that we live in under a Conservative government which appears to be not listening to the people at all and appears to be following its own agenda. I suppose governments do those things, but this one is doing it in a particularly distasteful manner. Anyway, to Corinne Grant. Now, I have altered the odd word or two here and there to allow for the passage of time, but essentially it remains unchanged. Here we go. We all want to be patriotic on Australia Day, don't we? We all need something totally awesome to wear that really sums us up. I'm thinking perhaps a t-shirt that says, "I'm Australian and I love staying dumb." At least it would be honest. Australia is currently before the International Court of Justice, accused of illegally seizing crucial documents that East Timor needed for a court case it has launched against Australia for spying on it. Just to make that clear, we're in front of the World Court. We're facing claims that we have behaved criminally twice. On the other hand, Cameron Diaz says women should grow out their pubes. Which story do you think is getting the more online clicks? The Australian Navy has recently wandered into Indonesia's territorial waters on numerous occasions, and the government has ordered an inquiry. The investigation will take just 3 weeks. I'm assuming that the findings will be something like, well, we thought it'd be funny to get the captain to hold a broom handle and look up at the handle and spin around until he fell over and then steer the ship. Are we demanding a proper, in-depth inquiry with complete transparency and disclosure? Nope. We're too busy demanding that King Hits be renamed as Coward Punches. It's a great shame that the rising tide of domestic violence against women doesn't get as much media attention. People living with a disability are, according to Kevin Andrews, you'll all remember him of course, Kevin Andrews from the Howardian days, Mr. Ultra-Conservative himself, now in charge of the Social Security portfolios. He believes that people living on welfare, living on disabilities, are taking the easy way out and living the high life on welfare instead of getting out there and working. It's a good point. Somebody has to pay for all the rich women in highly paid jobs to get $75,000 for choosing to have a baby and then take parental leave. It may as well be those bludgers who allowed themselves to wind up with a disability. Are we marching in the streets and demanding that our government stop the handouts to the rich, instead help the poor? Nah. Hey, Jane Fonda's in town, and she's 76, and she can touch her toes. Woohoo! Nauru, you know, that place where we send unwanted people who roll up on our shores seeking asylum from fear of their lives and repression in other countries under the UN convention to which Australia is a signatory. That Nauru. Nauru has reported both has deported both their Chief Justice and their only magistrate. Why? Well, it appears the Nauruan judiciary had the nerve to make a decision that that government didn't like. What happens to asylum seekers held in detention in a country that no longer respects the rule of law? They probably get processed a hell of a lot more quickly, sort of like spam. Suits us. The sooner we send them back so that they can get killed in their own country, the sooner we can stop worrying about them taking all our parking spots at the supermarket. Tony Abbott, you remember Tony Abbott, he is supposedly our Prime Minister. Not mine, but he is to some people. Lived it up large at the World Economic Forum, and on the Wednesday just gone, Tony reiterated his searing assessment on Syria, saying, "It's baddies versus baddies. And the best way to demonstrate that some of them are goodies is by laying down their arms." He said this on the same day that the rest of the world was talking about the discovery of horrific evidence of war crimes perpetrated by the Syrian government. Abbott has made himself look like a massive bell end on the world stage, but back here at home, goodies and baddies is about as complex as we can manage. Perhaps Tone should send the cast of Australia's Biggest Loser over to Syria and sort them out. Hey, if they can fat shame a whole town, how bad could it be? Or how hard could it be to end years of sectarian violence? And with any luck, the baddies will all be wearing black hats, and the goodies, they'll be wearing white hats. Would we expect the stupid comments, the dismissal of human rights abuses, the attack on the poor, and the allegations that we broke into international law if it was the previous government doing these things? I sincerely doubt it. It would have been announced as out of its depth, the public swallowing whatever the mainstream press decided to feed them, and would have them choking on their fury. If the papers blared headlines such as, "Abbott is a liar," "These guys are ripping us off," "Democracy is dead," and "This isn't what we voted for," everyone would agree. It's really that easy. Just write something stupid like, "Economic crisis," "Democracy in crisis," "Australia's way of life is under threat." Throw in a few lines of unsubstantiated hysteria and we'll all fall for it. We don't want facts or reason or even sense. We just want hysteria. The President of the Australian Human Rights Commission, Gillian Triggs, said on ABC Radio during the week that the incarceration of over 1,000 children in detention centres was something that most Australians understood was inappropriate. I don't think that's right. I think most Australians couldn't give a shit. I think most Australians are just as fearful of those little kids as they are of their parents. They're scared of them staying here, turning into adults and stealing our flat-screen TVs. The Murdoch media and politicians have told us boat people are stealing from us, and we're stupid enough to fall for it. We genuinely believe that a few thousand people are responsible for traffic congestion, hospital queues, instead of decades of government inaction on public transport, roads and health. We accept that we are at war with asylum seekers without questioning the lunacy of that statement or the secrecy and abuse used to justify it. We hate to think, but we love to hate. Perhaps it's time for all the human rights advocates and lawyers to stop appealing to Australia's good sense. Perhaps it's time we dispensed with the idea that Australians can be reasoned with. And if they're just given the facts, they'll make the effort to figure things out for themselves. It's not going to happen. We want short slogans, simple solutions, and lots of drama. And besides, we've got more pressing matters in hand. What should rich Western women do about their pubes? That little piece by Corinne Grant, sadly, in my estimation, sums up the Australia that I live in today. It embarrasses me. It embarrasses me terribly. We, as a nation, appear to be afraid of the little brown man, woman, child, to the extent that we're willing to lock them up, throw away the key, and hopefully forget about them. And maybe they'll just go away. The world doesn't work like that. The world is a far more cruel place than even Abbott would like us to believe. These people come to Australia seeking our help, and as a supposedly egalitarian nation, we are obligated to give that help, not lock them up in some run-down, two-bit temporary establishment in New Guinea, or worse, in barbed-wired compounds on Nauru. These people are the sort of people who are brave enough and determined enough to help us, who were born here by default, build a better Australia. And with that, I'll leave you to ponder, and we will now migrate outside for the annual flag burning ceremony. See you soon. Welcome to the second annual Australia Day flag burning ceremony. Why do I burn a flag on Australia Day? Because this is not an Australian flag. The dimensions are wrong, the colours are wrong, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't like the Union Jack being in the corner of my flag. This is also not America. We are free people here. We can determine our own destiny. We can burn our own flag if we so desire. And I desire. This thing is made in China. This is not Australia. This is not me. Advance Australia Fair.